Welcome back to the IESF American Regional Qualifiers. With me, Burger Kim and Mirko this time, and you have a highly anticipated match here right now. Mexico versus the Dominican Republic, who just came off of a loss, swept by Ecuador in the last matchup. And now, Mirko, what can we expect here coming into this game? You've seen the matches of Dominican Republic, Mexico. I think a lot of people are also looking for them over on the live stream, and now they're finally going to be playing here for you guys in, again, a best out of three.
Exactly. Mexico's debut on stream here. We just saw Dominican Republic's debut on stream as well. And unfortunately for them, they had to suffer a 2-0 loss, like you said earlier. For me personally, if I'm taking a look at both these teams, my personal prediction has got to be Mexico. Based on a lot of different predictions and even, the players' thoughts from the USA. They look at Mexico and they look at these players and they say, they've been saying that these players are very experienced themselves, and they've been really, really good. So, Dominican Republic as well, coming into this matchup, they're already at a disadvantage. Losing 0-2 is definitely a tough pill to swallow. Going third in your group, and it doesn't even matter what happens here, technically, because they're already third place, and Mexico will be first place in the group.
Yeah, I think both of them actually suffered losses. For Mexico, a 2-0 up against the United States. Dominican Republic, same case in the last match. But going into this, right, Mexico, even the United States, they were saying that they're looking forward to their matchup. It actually happened, and you guys can actually catch the updates over at IESF.gg. Let's take a look at the lineup here of Mexico. You got Israel Ziggy Serrano, David Zultra Reyes, Andres Rakped Molina, Mauricio Pica. Ooh, how do you read this? Picao XP Espino, and then you got Eduardo Sirius Gastelum.
Again, very experienced lineup here coming from Mexico. Not in international events though, more domestic, really, right? From what we've seen, at least from Team Mexico. But by the way, this is actually, I think, a playoff match already, where number 2 of Group B will be going up against number 3 of Group A. Actually, vice versa. It's number 2 of Group A going up against number 3 of Group B. So, because, unfortunately, for Dominican Republic, they had to take a loss 2-0. They were placed in the third spot, and they were going to have to go up against Mexico here, who are second in their group. Only second to United States, who are also just unbeatable in their own group. So, looking at this lineup, again, they're just very, very experienced. They have the grasp on the meta as well, based on the matches that we've seen from them. Despite the loss 2-0 to the US, it just feels like for Mexico, they're coming into this as overwhelming favorites too. Because aside from the loss to USA, they haven't dropped a single game in their group.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting too? Like, I noticed it as a trend among all of the regions, Mirko. Like, you see regions like, let's say, Southeast Asia, you got the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia. It's actually, similar metas that are being played there. And even for Mexico and the United States, quite similar, very close proximity. Let's take a look at the Dominican Republic as well. Let's reintroduce them once again here over on the screen. Jose June Ortiz, you got Joel 7 Almonte, Jean Des 01 Perez, Justin Too Easy for Chic, Cyprian, and you got Hazel. Whoa, call me Daddy Toledo. Okay, in the European qualifiers, you had somebody, an IGN or a player that was named Sorry I'm Mommy. So yeah, in this region we got a daddy, mommy, daddy. Yeah, I like that.
All right.
I feel like that's gonna be interesting to say, right? And you've seen already the matches of Dominican Republic earlier, and I think I would still say this is even though they fared pretty okay in their group, but going up against Mexico again, I would say it's a David Goliath matchup here coming into this third matchup of the day.
Most definitely. It's definitely a David and Goliath matchup, especially considering, again, for Dominican Republic, they weren't even able to get second place in their group, which is very unfortunate because they were coming in up against Ecuador with the same stats, basically, right?
Yeah.
Losing to Colombia in their group, both of them, but winning all of their other matches and then beating up against each other. And unfortunately for them, Dominican Republic, it's also both of the losses they suffered came through a comeback. That was definitely very, very painful. Game 1, Dominican Republic were just stomping when it comes down to neutral objectives, but for some reason, they would just overextend a lot of the times, and that's the reason Ecuador was actually able to get the W in the team fights itself. And same thing happened in game number 2, and it was definitely very, very tilting for them. So that's why, personally for me, what's concerning is, have they reset it? Sure, they got a 36-minute break, which is a long break, but after taking such a big loss, especially in a way of comeback, I think we both know that comebacks are especially very, very painful. I think me personally as well, I would just much rather have a game where I'm stomped compared to a game where I've got the hopes up already. I got the whole team's hopes up. We were already super hyped and pumped up for us to just be losing out in the later stage of the game.
You know what, Mirko? I'd take the break. Actually, honestly, after those 2 losses, for me, that's the cap for me. Like, let's say I lost 2 matches, I'd go into a break, maybe reset. I think that's enough. I would say enough time, fairly long break. This should give them enough time to kind of rethink it through, especially going up against Mexico this time. Honestly, it's tough. It's tough going up against back-to-back comebacks. And they've had like uncontemporary picks. I was actually watching the last game that they've had, and they went with the Zask Rome. I think sometimes you're going with like meta picks, right? But putting them in the right position should also be very important. They had a Sicilian on the other side, unfortunately, late game king, and it was super tough. I think it also extended up to a was it like a 20+ minute game? Yeah, that's a really, really long matchup, back-to-back comebacks, and hopefully this time they can finally seal the deal here in this game. But going up against Mexico, hopefully that 36-minute break was enough.
I think it should be enough. Again, like looking at the way that they've been playing, looking at how they were able to reset just from game 1 to come back into game 2 itself. I agree with what you mentioned. I think the Zask pick as well was just very strongly placed into the role position. He needs a lot of resources, especially in the mid to late game. And despite all the criticism towards the roaming Zask, he was still #1 in terms of damage dealt for the team. So still very impressive stuff considering it was already placed in Rome. Mexico, they definitely read that out. They definitely think, there's no way Dominican Republic will actually make the same mistake twice and misplace the role of the Zask. So they're just going to ban it out straight up here with the Zask and the Valentina. So much respect you're given over towards the mid lane of Dominican Republic. For Dominican Republic, they're just going to go for the typical red side start, which is going to be the Ling into the chip ban. But they don't go for the chip ban first. They actually go for the Fanny ban first. So a lot of respect towards Mexico.
Yeah,
because they do actually have an assassin user.
Yeah, I feel like if that's going to be the case, maybe all 3 bans are going to go to the assassin. Mexico, huge respect as well to, mid lane potential here. I also believe that Dominican Republic, Mamba's not going to be here in this lineup, right? Like when we saw in the player lineup. So it's going to be a different one. Not so sure if this is going to be a game changer for the Dominican Republic. But I do believe that they are kind of gearing up or probably putting out their best 5 players to go up against Mexico. Now, final ban, chip still open, so the Hayabusa will be the last ban. Jusin as well, that most of the time doesn't slip up in the draft, not unless Dominican Republic will ban that away. I think that's the only case, right? Jusin or chip here for Dominican Republic, or even the Roger that really gets a heavy priority.
I'm looking at the games again for Mexico, right? And they've actually pulled off in Lancelot as well and a Yisun Shin. So don't be surprised if they actually go for some big picks like this. And for Dominican Republic, I think they gotta respect the chip is what I was gonna say, but they decide to respect the Juicin instead, leaving the chip open for Mexico to take. And again, we haven't seen Mexico pick up the chip at all this tournament. I believe it's been always banned out away from them. But I guess we get a chance to see if Mexico actually want to take the chip here, or do they go for the Roger instead? It's just got to be chip. Every time it's open, it's just way too expensive to leave it up for grabs for the other team to pick. So they go for the chip, normal stuff. Dominican Republic, they can set up for a Roger right now, and maybe they can take a page out of what Ecuador did to them. Go for Roger and the Ruby. Both flex, both very, very good in respective roles.
Oh, okay. So you're right about the Roger, the Turizla to actually have the setup play in case, the chip comes in with the portal. But this is what I was talking about with Naisu, Mirko. Sometimes it can be a portal to death because it can backfire on you. I feel like Dominican Republic, they were picking in between the Zusin and the chip. And it feels like Dominican Republic can take the chip instead, maybe have a lot more CC. The Zusin is definitely hard to let go of. Mexico right now has to answer out to these first two picks coming out from Dominican Republic. Maybe a good combination with the chip. Sometimes like I see a lot of like chip Loyi. That's only ganks on the side lane, but they go for the Ruby here. Still a flex, I would say. I think they're kind of deciding like, okay, where's this Roger gonna go, and maybe adjust from there. They lock in the Alpha as well, true damage. I think this is the go-to jungler these days, if the assassins are out. So I would say very good amount of wave clear, pretty fast as well, and good when it comes to taking neutral objectives.
Definitely great. I mean, for the Alpha, great clear as well. It can really match up against anyone in the jungle when it comes to the jungle clear. So for Dominican Republic, I think a good way to end this drafting phase in the first phase would be to go for a jungler. I know they got the Roger, and technically they can use that as flex in the second phase, but if they are planning to go for the gold lane Roger, then they definitely need to pick up a jungler. 3 junglers have already been banned out in the first phase alone. Mexico are gonna have a crazy amount of value in terms of bans if they don't go for the jungle pick, or if they don't go for a gold lane pick, technically, because again, it is a good flex. They decide to go for just mid control here with the Lilia, which is really good. One way to actually stop the chip is to double down on your mid lane. If you can constantly just shove the wave, make it as though it's very hard for the chip to rotate around the map, and even the mid laner, then it is going to be way tougher to actually pull that off. The shortcuts and teleports all around the map. But now that we are getting into the second phase of bans, this puts the Dominican Republic in a pretty good spot too, because now they can start to nail down on the mages. But that mage is definitely not what I had in mind when you already have a Lilia pick, right? Usually, the Lilia, you want to have the Faramis on the other side. But I'm guessing because Mexico have a chip, that it could be utilized very, very well. So technically, you can't teleport to your death anymore.
I think they're kind of like thinking that, okay, maybe have the chip, combine it with like the Faramis, and say you can sustain pretty much any initiation that will be coming out from Mexico. So I guess that's the idea. I was thinking something along the lines of like more like AoE mages, because they picked up the Lilia here. I guess it's a good answer to the chip coming out. You pop in those glooms, insane amount of burst. It also has a pretty good win rate, I would say, in so far in the Americas regional qualifiers, and has great sustainability as well, because looking at the picks here of Mexico, they're gearing up for the ganks. You get the Spear of Alpha, you get the I Am Offended. So having the Lilia here would be so good when it comes to the team fights. Last ban for both sides. Looking at the draft, it's mostly like the mid lane centered bans. I'm not so sure if they're gonna go target the gold lane here for the matchup, but I think they're also anticipating that Mexico might rock this Ruby on the gold lane in case they do put the Roger up on the gold lane Roger.
And again, we're just nailing down on the mid laners, right? The Lo Yi as well going to be taken out. So no Lo Yi plus chip combination, no double teleport setup. That would have been very okay to have. I don't know. I'm not too sure about the Lo Yi pick anymore right now, because Lo Yi has really fallen off the IO list. But it is a Tigreal banned out together with a Minotaur there. So definitely looking to be Ruby, perhaps going to go as Rome, and they'll pick up an XP lane here. But Dominican Republic have the first pick in the second phase here, and I think the best way to tackle this draft would just be to pick up a roamer at this point, right? Try to utilize that flex on the Roger for as long as you can. They decide to go for the Fredrin, so this means that the Terizla, Roger Gold, Fredrin Jungle, Terizla Rome, the XP as well.
Or
You've
could
seen
be XP.
Terizla Rome?
Yeah,
but I think XP makes more sense.
Yeah, I think they're waiting for the final two picks here of Mexico. It seems like Dominican Republic, they also went for this pickup. Unfortunately, it didn't really work towards their favor. We know that utility jungler is kind of like 50-50, but now knowing that you're going up against an alpha, I think it should be at par when it comes to taking the objectives. They lock in the Vexana here. Anti-team fights, I would say great AoE. When you match it up with the Lilia, they still do need someone in gold, and they're gonna go for the Claude. I would say never goes out of style, always in the meta because of insane amount of burst when it comes to the late game, and you got the BMI out, pretty much can protect itself. Dominican Republic, they still kind of need to answer out to the chip, somebody who can set up, and I actually had this in mind. I had this in mind because this is usually the answer to the chip, and since the Minotaur and the Tigreal are gone, what better way to set things up than have everybody group up to get in a portal, get that Curse of Blood, combine it with the burst from the Lilia, or maybe even the penalty zone from the Terizla. It can actually be really good. But then again, Mexico, so much potential in this draft. Again, global presence with the chip. Let's see how they will play this out, because they've only dropped a series up against the United States. For Dominican Republic, they're going up against the Giants here with this lineup. And I don't know, Mirko, what do you think so far? They pretty much have answers to each other.
Yeah, but I think for sure Mexico definitely have a better composition here, knowing that the alpha, just based on the junglers alone, because again, when we're looking at this meta, position 1 is no longer the gold lane, right? So we have been seeing a lot of the stronger teams go for weak side gold lanes instead of the strong side to put more pressure or more prio towards the jungle. And the fact that they already have an alpha going up against Fredrin, that's going to be a big win for the alpha when it comes to clear, when it comes to getting a lead in the early game. And the Carmilla, even though yes, it is a good counter towards the chip, we've seen many teams actually utilize chip in a way where the Carmilla doesn't even get to counter it.
Yeah, either baiting out the ultimates or maybe even baiting out some flickers here and there. Let's head into the Land of Dawn here, Mirko, as we are going to be heading into game number 1 here between Mexico and Dominican Republic. Both have suffered losses, but now somebody will have to get that win streak once again. We see that so far, first part of the game, we see June as well, making his rounds towards the jungle side here, just giving vision to the side of Dominican Republic.
Screening as much as they can. Kendo, as you can see, already clearing out both buffs. And this is the advantage that you have when you play heroes like the Alpha or just the Assassins in general. Good rotation from Dash right now. Kendo going to be caught in a tough spot. Still able to sustain back up. Zoltra forced to use the Crash Core defensively and is able to escape just barely there as the Curse Blast gets placed down by Ziggy. Zone them away. But now, because they've actually been able to go for a lot of the clear inside of the enemy jungle, invading some of those camps, Omam's gonna struggle to get level 4.
Yep, actually Kendo just reached that level 4, and you definitely need that when you head over into the turtle. So now Omam has to be forced to head over to Mexico's jungle side. He's still level 3, whereas Kendo, again, getting in that level 4 is going to be really important. We see the priority as well onto the gold lane here for the Dominican Republic. Lots of pokes here, but no overextensions just yet.
Slowly but surely, just playing around the other side of the map. And this is, by the way, great utilization of the river movement speed buff whenever the neutral objective spawns on the other side of the map, because they're just playing around, top side, gold lane, relieving pressure off the Claw. That should be a losing matchup against the Roger. But in this game, it almost seems like it's the winning matchup. Panini's struggling. Rakpit has already gotten level 4, and you can see Zoltra already zoning Jun away. About to hit level 4 faster than Jun. I'm going to be able to find it now. I'm offended. Great one. Onto 7, forcing to purify out. As now it's going to be Kendo still winning on the retreat battle despite the poke down. Coming down and the shortcut gets placed. It seems it will be Rakpit taking it and then taking it back towards lane, because obviously they already got the win with the neutral objective.
Yeah, and that's a big win for Mexico. The level 4, getting in the jungle camps here of Dominican Republic, just making sure that they don't really have anything to take in right before the turtle. 2k lead instantly here for the side of Mexico, and no first blood just yet. Usually we see it in the first few minutes, but now 3 minutes in, extra careful from both sides. But speaking of, that's gonna be Zoltra picking up the first blood here for the side of Mexico.
Great pick down below. Would really love to actually see what happened there. The fact that Zoltra, of all people, of Kendo and Pika, got it. But hey, a win is a win. They were able to get it. Now Zoltra back up top. That's just how fast he is, man, on the chip. And again, for Kendo, he's actually constantly just looking for ways to invade the enemy jungle. Already 1 level ahead now, just with a turtle, just with a few of those invades, and he should be 2 levels ahead, getting into the next neutral objective.
Yeah, it's so confusing here right now because Zoltra's all across the map, right? They just go into any portal, and as you can see, Mexico are kind of dominating all of their lanes, right? Like you see Ziggy as well clearing out the lanes very, very early on so he can go in and kind of like gank this lane over at top. Panina's really struggling though. Like he can't even get near any of the creeps here. Level 6 as well has been reached, so almost all the members here of Mexico are at least a level ahead up against the side of Dominican Republic. They're getting zoned away also from all the major objectives. And for June, you definitely want to go near, right? But with Zultra kind of like blocking in the way towards the turtle, it's really going to be hard for them to take it in, and Mexico knows that for a fact, and they can definitely do that. Lots of pokes coming in from the side, and even the pressure onto the jungle here. As you can see, Zultra and Ziggy just making sure that Omam is kept in place, as Kendo already setting up here, taking the turtle without any contest at all.
Not even going to use the retribution there, and the orange buff will be taken away now. Under the turret, Kendo going to be caught in the Curse of Blood right now. As the shortcut gets placed down with the Curse of Blood already baited out. Now everybody joins the fight. The Eternal Guard missing. Good penalty zone to lock them down. Kendo going to be falling. Zultra still able to kind of wait now together with Rockpit, who's able to BMI backwards. Pika disengaging for the team, and it will end with a 1-4-0. Actually, it's just a good trade over for Dominican Republic. They're able to react to the play in time.
Yeah, June was laid down the Curse of Blood, and Spear of Alpha went through here for Kendo. A little bit too deep in. He was tanking up the damage from the tower. So Mexico, Dominican Republic, they were able to kind of clap back with the penalty zone, kind of trapping everybody there and getting in their first kill of this matchup. Mexico is still in the lead though, care of the turtle that they've taken in, and so far this Kendo already at a level 9. I do have to say though that Omam is not that far behind, because sometimes if you get the first turtle, there's already like a level 2 gap, but he's actually kind of keeping up. And on the bottom side though, Dead 01.
Not going to be able to survive this one just with the Spear of Alpha. Already blazing into it earlier. Good Terrify there. Just buying a little bit more time for Rockpit to get some more hits on that turret. And then putting the Eternal Guard down. A little bit of salt to the wound there to zone them away. Zultra shortcut in. Panini going to be caught with the stun of the Crash Course and the full engage with 4 members coming down. They're going to take the teleport back towards their own lanes, but this just goes to show you how powerful the chip is. Getting man advantages, ganks all over the map whenever he can.
Yeah, traveling these days can be very, very expensive, but it's gonna be way easier when you have the chip. And that was just a beautiful laydown of the portal, getting like 3 or 4 members in and catching Panini off guard. They were actually cutting down the lanes there, but with that win, they take down that tower over at the top side. Here comes the last turtle of the game, and Kendo's already there.
And I don't think he's going to have to retry this. The only retry he had to use was the first neutral objective. I think it's still good, though, for Dominican Republic. The fact that Omam isn't that far behind, I would definitely expect him to be 2 levels behind by this point, maybe even 3. But it's all good right now. 7 forced to go. Use the Purify there in the black shoes. But you can see the scouting already done by Zultra here. Into the enemy purple buff he goes. Ziggy already rotating as well. Kendo just going here into the bottom lane. Spear of Alpha finding him in the bush there with the Crash Course too. Dash goes over the penalty zone, not able to connect. Now as a Blaze Duet comes down as well. Omam going to be caught. The Curse of Blood not connecting onto Rockpit, but it does connect onto Ziggy, Kendo, and Zultra. But there's no damage placed down, and Kendo can just rotate over towards the purple buff. Omam is already down to half HP. Does get a little bit more of that HP sustain, but in the bottom lane, Rockpit's still on the turret, trying to go for a good clear from 7. But now Zultra concealed. Crash Course, no Purify this time to save you. And he doesn't even need to go for the shortcut. Even with the black shoes, 7 goes for it. Kendo just dives under the turret without a care in the world and picks up a kill. And hey, why not pick up a turret too?
For Mexico, they just know when to do these dives. There are times that they kind of overextended, right? Like you see the Spear of Alpha, Kendo tanking up the damage, but this time it's so clean. Like even the rotations coming out from Zultra, it always manages to catch Dominican Republic off guard here. And the timing too, right, of the portal, you kind of have to give like good communication to your team so that they can set up the plays here. There's so many ways to use this portal. You got the I Am Offended, you got the Spear of Alpha, and as for Dominican Republic, they do have the answer here with the Carmilla, but most of the time we don't see the Curse of Blood laying down on like the 4 members. Either she gets taken down first, or either she's like far behind, clearing out the waves, or maybe even staying with Panini.
Yep. There's always something. Oh, shortcut down below. This time Panini able to escape. Good Curse of Blood onto 4 members. But there's really no engage here because, you know, Desh, he was up top. Nowhere in the air to actually join a team fight. Oh, Jun! All alone, forced to use the Purify. And the teams from Mexico, they tried actually to go in for the neutral objective. Or sorry, for the full stun lock. But they're now rotating in towards the neutral objective up top.
One level ahead here for Kendo. They go straight here for this Lord in the 9-minute mark. Fortunately enough for Dominican Republic, there's only just 2 turrets taken down. The big win is that, you know, their mid tower is still intact, which is kind of the most important one here right now. But Mexico just blitzing it through, getting in that Lord, and now here on the bottom side, the Omam.
Dishing out some damage, trying to go for the poke Zoltra. That's crazy. The fact that that's just a crash course. Getting 7.5 HP. Good rotation there from Panini. Now concealed to actually escape. But you can see Kendo already rotating in towards the bottom side as well. Now you can see that 2-level lead. Zoltra again with a crash course. That's 2 crash courses. They got 7 that low. Just with the concussive blast as well. But my god, that base damage is ridiculous.
Rakped also got in the golden staff here. And mind you, we haven't checked on the gold lane just yet. And Rakped just having a very good time on his lane, right? They were also able to switch up by the time it hit the 5-minute mark. So all the Claude definitely needs to do is just keep on farming, right? As compared to the Roger that really dominates in the early game. Right now, the Lord is marching over on top and you got the portal in once again.
7 can't escape from this one. Gets gunned down. Pika picks up the kill. I'm offended to bring Panini back as well. Omam falling back. Zoltra with the crash course. Now the Spear of Alpha under the turret. Penalty zone. Locking Kendo down under the turret right there. But Omam doesn't have enough stacks to actually even go for the Appraiser's Wrath. And it ends up just being Mexico steamrolling through. 10 minutes in. Gonna go for the base right now. It's a terrifying in with the Spear of Alpha again to combo it together. 2-man I'm offended into the Curse of Blast. And you can see that the damage is just ridiculous. These are the 2 frontliners and they're melting like they're butter.
Oh man, earlier it was only a tickle coming out from Mexico, the pokes from Rakped, and now it's just way too much. Ziggy, even level 13, 3 levels ahead here of the mid laner, and so far Dominican Republic, they've only gotten some clapbacks very early on. Usually it's when Mexico goes in for those crazy dives, somebody is bound to go down. But now this is probably like one of the cleanest use of the portal every single time, and you know it's always most of the time really clean. And now Dominican Republic, their backs against the wall, there's just so much setup here, and even the frontliners can no longer take the damage coming out from Rakped and even Ziggy. They're trying to force this turret over here at the bottom, but there's a lot of wave clear here, so they don't want to force that out just yet. I think for Mexico, they're just gonna go the disciplined route, go over to the next Lord, which is about to come up in just a few more seconds.
Exactly right. I think that was definitely way too ambitious, going for the turret despite going up against Lilia. But hey, they try to make things work, and it really came down to if they were able to bait out the Curse of Blood, because that was the real goal. Kendo going up top. Oh, Mom's gonna be forced back there. Kendo's still gonna go for it, right? Whoa, almost picking up the kill despite it just being a 2v4 or 5 situation. I mean, yeah, props to Dominican Republic for actually being able to help Omam. But with Omam already so low, they can go straight for the Lord. And look at the bottom lane, Chip. Still being Chip, just standing across the side, clearing it up. And if anyone engages on him, free shortcut to go for the gank. Omam, this is ambitious, buddy. You don't want to be going for your own purple buff. Not when the enemy has complete control of your own jungle.
Yeah, they actually used the retribution, both junglers, right? But Mexico knew for a fact that they were ahead, of course, in the turret, so went straight for the Lord. I think June was going to try to go in for some play. He was setting things up there, but, you know, again, super ambitious coming out from the side of Dominican Republic. A very low kill score here, Mirko, for this game, as Mexico has just been running it through the lanes here for the side of Dominican Republic. They're doing their very best to clear out the lanes, make sure that all the waves come crashing through the side of Dominican Republic, and maybe go for some play.
Put a lot of damage onto Jun there.
I'm offended.
Connecting on the dash. Goes to the penalty zone, perhaps. 7 jumps in, and Blazing Away just rips through all their HP bars. Panini's forced to flicker back towards the fountain to even survive. Kendo still dealing damage. Spear of Alpha connecting on the 2 there with the true damage coming down. And you can see they're just going to go straight for the end. 13 minutes. And it's just a stomp all the way from the start.
Yeah, this whole rope-a-dope that Mexico has been doing up against the Dominican Republic. Sometimes I think for them it was just overall really clean, right? Taking in all the turtles, taking in that first lord of the game, and was able to seal the deal. I actually thought that they could have gone for the straight push, but unfortunately there were no minion waves from the start. But they went in for that lord, went in for that push. They just were levels ahead, so it was hard for Dominican Republic. They had to rely on the Carmilla to lay in the Curse of Blood, get in that chain combination, but unfortunately that didn't happen, right? They for June, he was able to land a couple of like Curse of Bloods there onto like 4 members, but right after that, without any follow-up, right? Like they just went in all out here, and the true damage from Kendo was just really way too much. Zultra as well on the chip, laying down the portal also well. This was one of the times that Dominican Republic was able to clap back onto Kendo a little bit too deep into the base. But for Mexico, they were really willing to do all of these dives. They have all the tools to do that. And this is one of the parts where the portal just came through, and Panini was like, what? That was like 4 members coming through, and that's really what you get, right? With a chip, you can't be too far, and you can get caught off guard here. And by the time that Rackped already had the items that he needed, it was just way too much for the front line here of Dominican Republic. Both Omam and June can't even take the damage, even from the basic attacks coming out from Rackped.
If you're frontliners, and these aren't, your standard frontliners, these are some beefy boys. This is a Fredrin, and a Carmilla, and a Terizla. If they can't take the damage, you know something's going on. Something bad is going on, and it's just a load of crazy diverse damage here. There's true damage in the Alpha, there's magic damage from the Vixana, there's obviously just that DPS coming down, also physical damage from the Claude, and it gets to a point where if you are far behind, there's no way for you to itemize, right? Because you gotta prioritize certain items. Like maybe you want to go for the Athena shield for the Vixana, but if you do that, you're very susceptible to all the other damage coming down for the rest of the team. So it just gets to a point where it's very, very scary, very threatening, and they gotta start fixing things all the way from the start. Because I think if we're talking about just item builds, if we're talking about those adaptations, it's way too late to think about that if the enemy team is already 5,000, 6,000 gold ahead by the 6th minute mark. That's how far ahead they were. I think the only neutral objective they could contest was the first one.
Yeah, the first turtle of the game. But unfortunately, I like how you brought that up, because they really didn't have the time to go all the way in, right? Like June was trying his very best to actually lay down a nice Curse of Blood, especially in the turtle fights that can really change the tide of the game in the early part. But he was getting zoned out by Zultra's chip, right? And to think that this is a Carmilla that can counter out the portals coming out from Zultra. So I think overall, Mexico just had a very solid foothold on the objectives. Like all of the turtles, none of them went to Dominican Republic. And by the time, all of your teammates have been able to scale up, Dominican Republic was left in shambles. They didn't know what to do. They couldn't really build that far because all the jungle creeps were going to the side of Mexico. They have gotten in way ahead of them already in this first game.
We're going to be taking a look at the scoreboard, I think, in just a bit right here, to actually take a look again at the damage dealt, damage taken, all those good stats for you guys. As we wait for the calculations to be made, though, I think the draft was also amazing, and I think that was also due to Dominican Republic leaving the chip open on blue side, on red side. I agree, respect is definitely crucial. You want to get the Fanny out, you want to get the Ling out. I think the Ling is okay. The Fanny, especially if you're going for utility jungle anyways, I think there are ways to come, right? Over the chip. There are more ways for even the Fanny user to make errors on the Fanny than it is on the chip. On the chip, it really comes down to
straightforward.
Up against the Carmilla. Exactly, yeah. I mean, usually you're very proactive, and you're still proactive here against the Carmilla, but sometimes before you put the shortcut, you really just want to try to bait out the Curse of Blood, right? It's as simple as that. But once you bait out the Curse of Blood, it almost seems like the Carmilla is useless in that game,
yeah.
right? I think literally Curse of Blood. If he gets a good Curse of Blood, when if he reacts to the shortcut, it's amazing. It's great. You get the win. But if you don't, that's it. Very, I wouldn't even say high risk, high reward. That in that game, it was high risk, low reward, because for the most part, if you're reacting to the other roamer to make a proactive move, while the rest of your team gets poked down by the Vixana, by the Claude. There's so many more ways for them to actually engage, aside from just using the shortcut to go for these picks, right? So I think for Dominican Republic, banning out the chip on red side would be very, very good for them. But obviously, I'm not even too sure if this game they want to take away the blue side. Because I think for Mexico, they're going to be fine letting go of the chip, letting go of these big picks like the Zosk as well, especially after seeing their match previously against Ecuador, where they actually lost against Ecuador with the Zosk.
Yeah, they had the answers earlier. They thought they had the answers with the Carmilla, the Terizla, maybe preparing themselves for the chip. But most of the time, it was them that got caught off guard by the portals that Zultra was laying. It was always almost on point that he kind of had eyes everywhere, all across the land of Dawn. Like almost all of the portals were on point, even though there were times that, okay, it's a little bit too risky, but they were able to pull it off, right? Same with the Carmilla. It's all about the communication, right? Like when you lay down the Curse of Blood, you have to have immediate follow-up because there's just only a couple of like delay time when you get everybody clumped up together in the combination. But as for the chip, it's more of like an instant response, right? And most of the time we've seen Dominican Republic, it was more of like June laying out the Curse of Blood defensively, or maybe even, okay, I'll lay down the Curse of Blood, see who I can get. And most of the time it's usually just Mexico going in, portal, get the Pika Yoops with the I Am Offended, and then Rakped just goes in for the Blazing Duet. Looking at the stats here, we have the most damage dealt, of course, coming out from Rakped's Claude, and you can actually see it by the last few minutes of the game that, you know, Omam, June, even Des01 was already backing away from all of the damage. And not to mention, they had the Vixana as well with the Eternal Guard that is really giving them an extra unit when it comes to these team fights.
Damage that you just look at it again. Look at it again. Look at how much damage they did just to the turrets too, right? 30,000 compared to 2,000. The Turtle Lord and the turret 2, they were only able to take one turret the entire game. And shout outs to them for Rakped too, getting, you know, an amazing game on the Claude up against the Roger, because this is not a winning matchup, not at all for the Claude. You're usually going to be kind of delegated to play a weak side matchup. Usually whenever you get a Claude, you're more likely just be, you know, independent, right? In lane, you just gotta get farm and then you wait for your mid game, and team usually just plays around your jungler. But the fact that he was able to win out in a lot of trades made it very easy for the rest of the team to just play around both sides. They can play in the XP, they can also play in the gold lane. That's why he's the player of the match here, able to win out in his lane, going for the team fights really well too. And still, despite having this massive lead, respect for having respect. Wind of Nature. I personally would just go BOD.
Actually, I think for Rakped, right, there was a lot of dives that were made by Mexico, and I think for him, he's just, you know, preparing for anything that any of the possibilities, either getting caught in between the taunts from Omam's Fredrin, or maybe even the Lycan Pals that really does hurt when it comes to the Roger. But, you know, respect comes through. I think for Rakped, overall, it's a really good game. We really didn't see so much of him from the start. But, you know, that's the thing about having one lane crumble, right? Like, it's just kind of like a spiral effect that the team kind of has to answer out to one lane. And for Rakped, he just had that massive switch as well when it came to the 5-minute mark. So he was just able to farm up more and able to take up more turrets, which is why he was able to dish out that much damage with the Blazing Duet by the time the game ended.
Yeah, but I think we are going to be, you know, heading in onto a break, a 3-minute break. So very, very quick break. But me and Burger Kim will be back in 3 minutes.
Welcome back to the Americas Regional Qualifiers. Still with me, Burger Kim and Mirko. We're going to be heading on to game number 2 here in just a little bit between Mexico and Dominican Republic. We were talking about the chip right before the break started. Too expensive to give out to Mexico, and blue side, you just have that prio pick here. Should they go for more of these respect bans, or will we finally see that chip being banned away? Because most of the time, it is just too hefty to give away to the opponent.
I guess we'll just have to see, right? The chip, I think for me, definitely don't let it go. For both. I think it's not just the Dominican Republic problem, but it could be a Mexico problem too, right? Mexico need to take that out, chip. So we'll see. Maybe we don't get to see chip at all. And honestly, I'm just really curious to see the side selection too for both these teams. Because usually, losing team gets to decide, right? So Dominican
Yeah.
Republic, do they want to stay on red side or do they want to take blue side? Because if we take a look at the statistics, Mexico, most of their wins have come through red side. So if you do go
Oh.
for the blue side, give away maybe a comfort side away to Mexico, and that's exactly what they do. They actually ban out the chip on blue side. I like the respect already because maybe they're just not comfortable on it, and hey, no problem. As long as you ban it out, now it's not going to be a problem for you.
Oh, it's gonna be Mamba back here for Dominican Republic, Mirko. So this means that there's a change also when it comes to the dynamics of the team coming into this game. It's already match point for Mexico, and with the bans being, the standard bans, Juicin and the chip, which kind of means that Dominican Republic is either not that comfortable with those heroes, or it feels like it's not really their play style. But earlier there was a ban on the Fanny as well from the Dominican Republic, but they're actually gonna let that slide, taking away the Terizla instead, which is something that they picked up in game number 1. So for Mexico here, I think all of the standard bans are already out. So this means that the ones that are open are usually, safer out. Just go for the Roger here for Dominican Republic, or maybe they want to start it off with something totally different.
I think the Roger is the safest choice to go
Yeah.
for as first pick. It's a great flex as usual. Gold, jungle, both works really well. But for Dominican Republic, we've only seen it as in gold because for some reason Umam is just stuck on the Fredgen every single
yeah.
time, and that will definitely make it very readable. And I think that's why it'll be tough for Dominican Republic to actually even feint out this Roger to be a flex pick at this point. And Mexico,
Yep.
gonna go and pick up the Ruby again. It was
Instantly.
really, really good in game 1, and at this point, what else do they go for?
Oh.
Valentina. All right, so flexible options
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, the Ruby is also, I would say, some sort of a flex pick also when it comes to this particular region, right? It can be, or it's most of the time, with what we've seen in the group stages even, it is, usually centered around the gold to counter out the Roger. And now with the Valentina being put into play, this just limits out so much more of Dominican Republic's matchup, right? Like, we can't pick up these heroes that have good ultimates, but they go for the Angela this time. Again, not sure if it's going to be a mid lane or a roam, but they might have some combos here that they're kind of try to go for. And with Mamba being back into the game, it might actually just change things up here. This is the CC, if I'm not mistaken, Mirko.
Yep, it is.
CC picked up here for Dominican Republic. Not so sure if this is something to answer out to possibly like the gold laner Rakped, which is somebody that they couldn't touch in game number 1.
I think it's a good answer here, especially if they are expecting an assassin jungle to come through from the side of Mexico. And honestly, for Mexico, they still have a lot of different options to go for. They decided to go
Yep.
for the safe choice, which is going to be the Alpha. And I like this pick over the Assassin because the CC is a great way to deny the split pushing power of an Assassin, right? So if Mexico still want to just go for team fights, it'll still be solid right now based on their composition. They have a lot of good AoE CC, a lot of good AoE damage. Now it's just going to come down to the gold lane. But even then, it's still flex for Mexico.
Yeah.
Like you said, the Ruby, you've seen it as a response to the Roger in the gold lane even, right? In the XP, you can still flex it in. In the roam, it's still possible. So that's why the Ruby just finds a lot of value in the first phase. And I think it's the same that can be said about the Angela. And to be fair, even the Roger. But again, Dominican Republic, they've only ever played Fredgen in the jungle for Umam whenever Umam's playing. So I'm not too sure if the Roger will actually be in the jungle or can actually be flexed. But the Angela, for sure, can be flexed. Mamba and Jun, we saw Mamba play the Zosk mid. So I'm pretty sure he can play the... If he can play the Zosk mid, he should be able to play the Angela mid too.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, if that's the kind of playstyle that they're going for. On contemporary roam, I would say they're also, picking up these heroes that have at least like good combinations when it comes to the team fight. Mexico is going to go ahead and still take away. So they're anticipating that this might be a mid lane Angela, since they're taking away the Tigreal here. I wouldn't be surprised if they take away, I was thinking of like a Minotaur, but they go for the Novaria, somebody that has, I would say vision, but going up against Mexico though, I'm not so sure. Maybe it's a target ban here. Dominican Republic, last ban for them. Maybe towards a gold laner here, not unless, they're kind of gearing up for the fact that this is a gold lane Ruby.
Yeah, the gold lane Ruby certainly could still be an option to go for. Good flex as well. I like that Mexico have done their homework though, right? Because Dominican Republic in game number 2 against Ecuador, they actually played the Varia mid and the Angela roam. So they flex the Zask, sorry, the Zask roam, and
Yeah.
then the Novaria mid. And it was pretty good. It actually worked out pretty well for them. And if Mexico are looking to go for the ambushes, then it is a good ban to go for. And at this point, I feel like they can go for something like a Minotaur too, right? Because
Yeah.
if Dominican Republic want to play for the side lane, if they want to play for the single target heroes, I mean, not single target, but single target sustained with the hard guard, Mexico can double down with the team fighting power that they already have right now. 3 AoE abilities, plus the Minotaur, and then just utilize the Ruby as flex. But hey, I completely forgot that Edith is
Yeah.
a great option to go for too. And actually, now looking at it, yeah, it's actually a better option compared to the Minotaur. Because not only do you provide the same reactive power that the Minotaur provides in its composition, but you also add in so much more damage in too. So if the CC ever uses the Vengeance, gets the hard guard, there's more than just one ability to keep an eye out for. It's not just the Alpha. It's not going to be just the Valentina. And it's not just going to be the Edith, because we still have yet to see we don't see the marksman pick, not yet. The Ruby can still be flexed.
Yeah, it's I think for Mexico, they're just playing mind games here now with Dominican Republic. The Edith, I would say this is a lineup that the Roger wouldn't want to go in for the like and pounds, right? You can get countered out here by the onwards, and even the I am offended here, so it's not gonna be easy to dive in. So it is actually a mid lane Angela here, since they picked up the Kufra, I guess, to counter out or maybe, you know, probably have a little bit more CC here, somebody to set up the tempo of Dominican Republic. But they have the form of AoE in the form of the Nathan, so I guess they do have that. But for Mexico, this is really scary. Again, it's one big ultimate that should come out from Dominican Republic, which is going to be the Tyrant's Revenge. So they're gonna have to count on that, right? Since the Angela right now gonna be played on the mid lane position. So again, Mexico, gold lane. Is it a gold lane Ruby, or is it not a gold lane Ruby?
I think going for a marksman would also be pretty good. Like, they go for the
Wow.
Lolita. So it's going to be an Edith XP. They're flexing more than just two heroes. It's Edith going to the XP lane. They're going to have Lolita. And yeah, the Lolita is an amazing, amazing pick into the Natan, dude. Because the Natan, you do a lot of damage, and technically for your basic attacks, it can be bounced back. Every single one of your basic attack skills as well can be bounced back. Even your second skill, which is going to be very annoying for your own team if you use it at the wrong time up against the Bulwark. And especially considering for Dominican Republic, they have two ranged heroes. Not just the Natan, but they also have the Roger in the jungle. So I would say Mexico, again, solid composition here to get job done.
The XP lane Edith, and I think for the Ruby also, I think it's not going to be that easy for the Nathan as well when it comes to the laning phase, knowing that the Ruby can be a lane bully here up against it. There's so much sustain too, like they added a Lolita up to the lineup, so that's going to give that extra shield as well coming out from the Lolita's passive. So it's not going to be easy to take down the lineup here of Mexico that is, I'd say, really, really beefy, a good amount to sustain, and, you know, playing the mid lane Angela, it's like usually like a 50-50, right? And now having a whole lot more setup, it's gonna be up to June here. Mirko, is gonna be match point here for Mexico up against Dominican Republic as we head over into the Land of Dawn here for game number 2.
Let's see if they can get the job done here at this point up against Dominican Republic in the mid lane. You can already see Ziggy actually get bullied a whole lot, and Zoltra actually more concerned to actually get Kendo ahead than the mid lane itself. You can see for Mamba charging up the Tyrant's Revenge already, gonna be able to get the knockup done, but now gonna be stunned up, and still gonna be Kendo secures the lethal Wanderer despite the attempt of that little cheeky pick in the deny. Ziggy now actually gets control back of the mid lane and can actually clear it out.
Yeah, I think it was the Mamba in June actually just slowing down the Valentina here for Ziggy. Actually doing a great way to poke out this Valentina, making sure that Ziggy actually goes back for HP onto the lane. Level 4 already being reached here by Kendo as well as Omam, but they're going to be rotating towards this XP lane, possibly going in for a sandwich pick. But here over at the mid side though, Spear of Alpha has been used. Mamba, June, they're both level 2 for now, as well as Zoltra. So again, they might be in trouble here. Kendo goes in for the red green.
Too aggressive. Mamba gonna be taken down. Concussive blast down 2 for Zoltra there. Whoa, Light could pounce into 3 members. I'm not too sure about this. Zoltra's gonna be able to escape. Spear of Alpha catching him again. And with a terrified Kendo, able to pick up the double kill. Oh no, Omam jumping to his demise.
Yep, he's not a Fredrin this time. That is a Roger. Way too risky. Overzealous coming out from Dominican Republic. He thought that he could actually get them down real low. But definitely going up against the Alpha, there's the sustain, there is the lifesteal. 2 kills already for Kendo. This is not looking good. He actually is going towards the purple buff here as well of Dominican Republic, but he might get sandwiched here.
Yeah, he also has the hard guard there. Seems like Omam is still able to escape or take it away. Now, Blast gonna be charged up. Oh, that's a 3-man stun down. Kendo's still able to survive now with Earth Shatter Flicker combo with the Primal Rat too. Doing a whole lot of damage. Death's gonna be forced back again. And it will be a trade. This time, Kendo gonna be shut down. And luckily for them, Omam is actually the one who picks up the kills. He goes in for the Lycan Pounce again. Gets caught in the Earth Shatter and the stun. Ziggy, no mana this time. Omam able to get another on the board for Dominican Republic.
Yeah, he's able to catch up here, and I believe the gold swing will go to Omam here for shutting down Kendo at that point. And I think this time it's a little bit more decisive coming out from the Roger here, knowing that he's gonna have the backups, the heals as well coming out from June. But that was a really beautiful Numenon blast, right? Like you wouldn't be that confident to invade the enemy jungle knowing that you don't have that backup coming out from your team. This time Dominican Republic, I would say they have a good answer right now. It's just 500 lead here by Mexico. Care of the shutdowns coming out from Omam. I think the next big thing that Dominican Republic and Mexico have their eyes set on is going to be this turtle, right? Omam slowly catching up to Kendo, just 1 level behind, so not that far yet. So again, has to be calculated when it comes to them doing the moves.
Oh, good Donor Wolfgang there, canceling it out. The guard is Bulwark actually dishing out a whole lot of damage. Doing on blast as well, connecting Rakpid. Still able to escape. Omam trying to go for it. Kendo. Spear of Alpha pinning him down. Under under the bush there still. Ziggy goes over to Lycan Pounce, steals the Lycan form away, chases him down. And even with the bouncing ball, it's not going to be enough to stop this from happening. 6 seconds for the turtle to spawn. Dash is rotated all the way from up top. Puts down the curtain call to lock Kendo and Ziggy down. But with no jungler, and with Kendo being 2 levels ahead anyways, I think they're still going to go for the turtle, which Zoltra starts up. Tyrant's Revenge charged up as well now. Doesn't have the rage. Oh, straight into the I'm Offended and the Spear of Alpha. No way Dominican Republic can contest that one.
Wow. Man, Mexico is just way too prepared to take in that turtle. There was a lot of backup coming out from the side of Dominican Republic, but even then, right? There was just way too much answers coming out here from Mexico. You either get trapped between the Domron Wolf King, you got the shields coming out from the Lolita, and the possible Numenon Blast, right? So again, the Roger suffering 2 deaths here has to be a little bit more calculated. We see some setups here from Mamba onto Kendo though.
Maybe caught, still able to escape just for a bit there, but will be taken down in the end. Numenon Blast to try to save Kendo earlier. Omam's walking forward. Zoltra forced to put the Bulwark down as Mamba charges up the revenge. Zoltra dashing out to safety, but Omam actually going to go for the purple buff. Kendo's going to be spawning in 4 seconds. Zoltra still there together with Ziggy, trying to prevent this from happening. Omam forced back, unable to go for the retribution. Backpid moving forward.
I'm offended.
Wolf King and the I'm Offended. Mamba pulled back again, and Pika coming down as well with the Earth Shatter, able to find it. Mamba blocked away, can't go for the Tyrant's Revenge, and they give the kill over to Rakpid.
Wow, that's the second time I've seen Ziggy using her skills or IMU to steal up the Lycan Pounce. Usually you go for the hard guard, right? Sometimes he does, but now it gets all the more confusing. This time he actually goes for the hard guard, but Mexico, they really have that presence of mind all across the maps. There are some clapbacks here from Dominican Republic onto Kendo most of the time, but again, Mexico, they just know when and where to be in the map, as Rakpid and Ziggy as well, using up the hard guard though. I'm not so sure what the idea was there. I think they were anticipating Mamba's setup here. Again, it's not going to be easy to do that. You got the Ruby just sustaining up all of the damage. The last turtle is going to be up in just a few more seconds. For Mexico, they've been getting the kills here, but haven't been able to actually get the turret convert so far.
Tyrant's Revenge and the Rage is all used up on the Zoltra. And that's the roamer. All on that time, Kendo, together with Pika, was able to actually pick up a turret up top, and now straight into the neutral objective they go. And because they've already used so many of their resources towards Zultra, this is a free one over to Kendo again, who's 2 levels ahead of Umam as they push into the mid lane, and they get so much more prio to rotate across the map.
Yeah, now they're, I think for Dominican Republic, they're just making sure that at least Panini can get the scale up, right? Because they haven't been able to take any of the turtle, all went to the side of Mexico. So right now you see a lot of their resources for Dominican Republic has shifted to Panini instead, who hasn't suffered any casualties just yet, has picked up 1 kill, and up against Rackbed, it's not gonna be an easy job, right? He's just gonna keep on life stealing the heck out of you, and with that Brave Smite, there's just it's not gonna be easy to take it down. And Mamba, I respect the attempt here. There's the Tyrant's Revenge and the bouncing ball.
But again, it's only onto Zultra there. Now Numenong Blast gonna be charged up. 2 members stunned up. Kendo, now the Spear of Alpha bringing him back into the Primal Wrath. Umam taken down, and even without a minion wave, they'll be able to take the turret. Ziggy now marching forward down. Gonna get the Terrify Purify out there from Jun. As Mexico now is just in complete control of the map and of the game.
As you see, like Des01 can't even zone out the back lines, and that's something you would want as a CZ. And with the Purify too, right? You get either caught in between the Spear of Alpha, or you get terrified here by Ziggy's Valentina. And now Mexico, they're converting the turret takes here. They've taken down 3. All of the turtles went towards their side. But as you can see, it's not that far of a lead just yet, not unless they manage to get in something right before the Lord. Mamba already setting up the play here. He has the immortality, so I think he's really not scared of like wasting the ultimates here, or even the flicker, just to get somebody out. So that's something that Mexico has to watch out for. But for Mexico, they have a whole lot more AoE coming out from Zultra. He's been laying out so many good Numenor blasts.
There you go, just as you say it, Numenong Blast again, this time connecting on the 2 members. Panini even getting connected over to Mamba. He just bought the immortality, and he won't be used for anything. Spear of Alpha going forward again. Ziggy putting the curtain call down to lock them down together. Oh, you hate to see it. Right as he picks up the immortality, it gets popped, and he just dies again for the 6th time this game.
Yeah, that's gonna be like a huge question, right? Do I leave the immortality there, or just kind of sell it? Because the cooldown time
Sell
is...
it.
Yeah, just sell it at this point. He did try to go for a play there. But then again, you know, you have the Lolita, and not to mention you got the Eat It as well to kind of set things up as well for your team. In Mexico, immediately, right after those pickoffs, they're going to go straight for the Lord. And usually, Mirko, we see this after the first Lord, probably, or most of the time, all the second tier turrets are going to be out. Not unless, you know, Mexico, again, is going to have that 1 good Numenon blast onto 4 members. They're running on an Angela mid, so there's really not a lot of pokes. It's gonna come out from Panini, by the way, which we haven't seen so much of yet. 1 kill, so at least they have to keep him alive. He still has the Purify though, right before this Lord is marching down mid. Mexico is just so aggressive when it comes to these sieges that they're gonna try to do. 2nd tier towers are gonna go down here for the side of Dominican Republic. So we're gonna have to wait for Mamba to make the plays here. He's slowing the things down here for the side of Mexico, but he has to land a very nice Tyrant's Revenge here onto the side of Mexico.
Does. He needs to get a 5-man at this point, right? And a 5-man into a combo with the Natan, but if you look at it again, there's not really much they can combo it together with, technically. Because the stun won't be forever, that Tyrant's Revenge. And Zultra can just pop Guardian's Bulwark. Numenor Blast now charged up as well. The Earth Shatter coming down. And no, Mamba again. Gonna be caught for the 7th time this game. Zultra's just returning all the fire thrown at him with the Bulwark. They get the holy defense in the bottom lane. Oh, man.
Yeah, he just jumps in, right? And with the bouncing ball, he thinks that he can be unstoppable. You get the onwards as well from PKU, so it's not really going to be easy to do those dives as Mexico. Wow, they're just taking this turret up top by 4, so they're just taking it as much as they can right now in the 11-minute mark. And I would be surprised if they just go for the straight push. They're just waiting for all the ultimates to be up here. They got Rackbid, they got Zultra here with the Numenon Blast, so they're at their enemy's base. So Mamba, again, pressure's gonna be on him. He's been doing all these nice dives, but then again, he needs to get that 5 setup as the minion waves are already crashing in here. They're waiting for some play here as Mamba gonna be able to find one, but the Numen Blast.
Oh, connecting onto all the members. Panini forced to purify out, and just like that, they're just gonna go on to Umam, who's still able to escape onto the fountain. Again, a dash forward from Dash. Curtain Call catching him now. They're all still there. Mama goes over to Towers of Edge again. Earth Shatter not connecting this time around. Back, but able to find the Abafed and finding Dash and taking him down. Mexico, they have no intention of making the game go even further. They want to end things right here, right now. Zotra walking forward. A good Earth Shatter to cancel Towers Revenge. And again in the back, Ziggy able to just bait out so many of those resources. The Bulwark is there. An Earth Shatter flicker and a big bonk to the head. And Jun will have to get back all the way to the fountain. It's Mexico 2-0 Dominican Republic.
The Kufra pick came up. We've seen the attempts there from Mamba. They've also switched up their lineup, but Mexico just still comes out the strongest here in this matchup, sweeping Dominican Republic for the second time for today, debuting really strong here onto the stream, and highly anticipated matchup like what we mentioned. I was kind of iffy on the Angela mid lane. They thought they could make it work, but you know, having the Kufra on the lineup, you can actually see that, you know, the attempts of Mamba was there, right? Charging in, going in for the Tyrant's Revenge. But then again, you know, Mexico just had the counters to that. Like, every time Mamba comes in, you get the counter out from the Numenor Blast of Zultra, and not to mention even the onwards coming out from Pika. There was some wins here from Dominican Republic into the early game. Omam was able to get in some shutdowns and some kills. As you can see, the gold lead was not that far in the early game, but when it came to the late game, all of the dives coming out from Mamba, who actually suffered 8 deaths here, Mirko, in this entire game, was not able to set things up. He was able to get 1, but you needed to get in 5 here. And without the combination that they had here for Dominican Republic, it was definitely really hard, right? He always gets taken down first. There's a lot of chain CC coming out from Mexico. So it was a really difficult game. There was a lot of times that Mamba was also forced to use that flicker out defensively, and Mexico just retaliates with the Numenor Blast, the I Am Offended, as well as the onward coming out from Pika Oops.
Way too many things to handle, really, for Dominican Republic. It was just overwhelming. The amount of CC, damage, re-engage tools, engage tools, everything really was there. Team Mexico, and for Dominican Republic, like we were about to say before, the team fights kept on happening. It's the fact that even if, let's say, right, Mamba gets a 5-man Tyrant's Rage, who's really there to help with the combo? I don't think anybody was there to actually, you know, follow up on the combo, aside from damage, obviously. But even if we're talking about in damage, as long as Zultra gets out of the CC, which is going to be very, very quick because he already has the tough boots, right? So extra tenacity, she can just use, he can use the Guardian's Bulwark on the Lolita, and then all of the projectiles that Dominican Republic will be trying to use the combo together with the Tyrant's Rage will just be returned back to them. Yeah, I would definitely say that Lolita pick is genius on Mexico's part. That final pick for them. Congratulations to Team Mexico. You can see the stats here on screen displayed, showing you again another dominant game. And I don't know, I guess you could make a... It's the same kind of question right now for me. Is it as dominant as game 1 or more dominant?
Yeah, they just keep amping things up here. As you can see in the stats, all of the towers, even the objectives, just went to Mexico. Unfortunately, look at the tank here. It's Mamba, right? Like, props to him for actually being relentless on trying to set things up. But for Mexico, they really had all of the tools to counter engage here. But our MVP for the match, Mirko, is going to be Ziggy, actually, on to the Valentina, not suffering any casualties at all for this entire game. Apart from the Numenor Blast, apart from the onwards coming out from the Edith, what really made it hard for the side of Dominican Republic to set things up was also the Terrify. And there were times that you see Ziggy actually usually you'd go for like the Heart Guard, right? That just makes so much more sense. But Ziggy, he used a couple of the Lycan Pounces up against Omam, right? Like, that's usually not the case. You'd go for more of the Heart Guard, but it was just really, really well played using the Valentina, and this is the reason why you see the Valentina still being chosen despite the several nerfs that were given to her.
Valentina is just always going to be in the meta as long as he has that ultimate, right? The IMU. There's so many big ultimates in every single meta, whether it be now in the team fighting meta. I think now she went from meta to prio, because I would say in a lot of the pro matches, Valentina just becomes so prio because of how many big ultimates there are in the game itself and that are meta. I think the Edith comes into mind instantly. The Minotaur as well. You know, the instant big ultimates, and just recently the Zask. A good way to actually counter the Zask by taking away Dominator's Ascent and try to make it Dominator's Ascent versus Dominator's Ascent. That's a good way to do it. But even the Lolita, you know, a new counter towards the Natan. We've been seeing it a whole lot more. It's just, I don't know. Looking at the meta, I'm really interested to see what, you know, the next few matches in the next few days has in store for us for our American region to qualify.
Yeah, it's day number 3. There's so many things going on here, Mirko. But for now, believe it is going to be me and Naisu up next for our final match of the day. So we're going to be having a, I would say, 40-minute break at least for you guys to get your refreshments. Maybe, you know, grab in some popcorn for our final match of the day. But for now, Mirko, we're going to be taking a short break. So see you guys after this.